Okay, so as we evade, because it's nighttime, our DAC duties and what else we have in life, this is Beowulf the Legend. This is a Knizia game that I think I was trying to pick up a different Beowulf game and got this one by mistake, but I can't complain too much because I do like my Knizia a fair amount. So I'm just trying to make sure that I don't have another one kicking around. It wouldn't matter. I'm still doing this one. What this game is going to be about, it's a little different from some of the Knizia games, which are usually like just sort of these area majority type things. And then he also does like bidding in his games. But you're usually trying to collect a majority of stuff. You sort of are here, and it's sort of a mixture of the two, but it's in a different sort of way. Instead of an area majority, you're trying to get bidding majorities, essentially, of certain kinds of cards that'll work. Now, it's going to be processed in a number of different sort of episodes that just show up from the life of Beowulf, as far as we, have from I want to say the Giet. I don't know if that's right. Whatever, the epic. Okay. And we have a number of different types of components involved in the game. First of all, there's the Beowulf piece, which just marks which episode you're in and nothing else. There's this, which is kind of cool. This little round thing, it basically sits in the middle of the three-sided board or three-piece board and keeps it from moving about, which, I don't know, there's something weird about it. It looks like a shield. These are special cards that you can acquire through some of the episodes and by successfully bidding. Over here, you got wounds, scratches, gold or treasure. I don't know what the fuck those are. Misfortune tokens. I don't know quite what they do. I've read the rules to this one multiple times, actually. Back when I got it, I think I read the rules. I may or may not have played it with my wife. I didn't cover it. I don't even think I played it at all. So I don't have much history behind this for me, other than why I ended up picking it up. But anyway, I think I kind of decided, this would suck as a two-player game. And a lot of Knizia games kind of do. But I read the rules again very recently, about a little over a week ago, and then I got sick and I didn't get around to it. I'm still not well. But I figure let's get it out of the way now that I'm in place. And then these markers are fame tokens. They're going to be your sort of victory conditions for the game. And then in here we have diplomacy markers, which have a number of different things. They may have fame, they may have money, treasure. I think that's about all they have on them, but we'll see. All of these are things that you acquire in exploring the story of Beowulf. Then you got cards. Now, each player starts with, geez, I haven't dealt them out, 7 cards. 2 of them are going to be this, which is a Beowulf card, which is basically a wild card, and a fighting card worth 2 fights. Everybody gets those, and then everybody's going to get 5 more cards. I'll pull one just to... Okay, so this is a horn. That is a friendship card, just as an example. I'll deal out the 5 per player. I thought I had done that already. And you just kind of follow this track and go from one episode to another and do whatever it says. But what does it say? Okay. And that's where we get into some of, that's where we get into the specifics, where I start reading through the rules. If you want to know how to play the game or whatever, I'm sure there are better people out there explaining how to play the game. This is more to give the context for the playthrough that I'm going to give. And, whatever. If you like my voice or something silly like that. The fame tokens are basically the victory conditions for the game. Now, in the basic game, treasure markers also count, but I'm going to be playing the advanced game where those get used up for something throughout the game instead. They just add basically a different type of, a different kind of space to the game. Okay. And this little red marker indicates the first player. There's another one of those that's used when there's less than 5 players in the game. I'm going to be playing with 5. In order to just mark, you know, which rewards, although some of them may not be positive, are available at the end of each episode. For the major episodes is what I think they're called. Okay, let's look at what we have. So we got 36 different episodes. The marker moves once, basically each turn. All the players in clockwise order have the opportunity to perform the activity. If you decide to do so, discard 2 cards from your hand and draw 2... Oh, wait, what? At the beginning of the game, the figure is standing at the edge. Once everything's been set up, the start player moves the Beowulf figure. All the players in clockwise order have an opportunity to perform the activity offered. If you decide to do so, discard 2 cards from your hand and draw 2 new cards from the stack or deck so that you have the cards you need for the next episode. When all players have had a turn, move Beowulf to the next episode. Sail to Denmark. Each player has a turn here as before, and so on. Now, the special ability with this one is that you discard 2 cards and draw 2 more. You have an opportunity to sort of freshen your hand in that particular mission episode. So that's just, it's just going into the specifics of that first episode as opposed to anything else. In most of the episodes, you'll be competing for fame and rewards. All gathered fame, treasure, alliance, and misfortune tokens are kept face down in front of you. Now, other than alliance tokens, everything is hidden trackable information. I've had discussions about this. I treat it as truly hidden, and you're not allowed to write anything down. And if you can't remember it, too bad. Other people want to play where, you know, that stuff's all face up or whatever. I think it takes something away from the game. Because honestly, if you're spending mental effort on trying to remember exactly what everybody else has, you're probably going to make your brain less capable of doing some of the other activities that you need to do throughout the game. You might have a vague idea of who's doing well, you might not. Okay. When Beowulf reaches the last episode, Death of Beowulf, there's a final scoring, and whoever has the most fame and the most treasure, just most fame in this case, becomes the new king to replace him. Alright. There are 3 different types of episodes in the game: minor, major, and treasure. The treasures are used in the advanced game only. The youngest player will be the start player, gets the red token to begin with, and moves the Beowulf figure from one episode to the other. But this player can change after each major episode, so people's ages change now. Okay. Minor episodes are these beige-colored things. It's definitely these. But it also includes risks. Okay, and opportunities. All right. All the beige-colored stuff. But not like this, even though there's beige on there. All right. So, there's a number of different types, and you're given the option to perform a particular activity. All players are offered the same activity, same opportunity, which they can either accept or refuse. The start player decides first what they're doing, and then we go clockwise, well, counterclockwise in my case. Again, something I've discussed before, but whatever. If you don't want to perform an activity offered to you, you can do nothing. Okay. So, risks. When one says risk on it, it has 2 symbols on it. I don't know about this great. Oh, this is an opportunity. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it in a moment. On a risk, you turn over the top 2 cards of the deck. You keep any cards that match the symbols of the risk episode. You also get any Beowulf cards added to your hand. Cards with symbols that don't match those 2 are placed face up on the discard pile. If neither of the 2 cards has a matching symbol or the Beowulf symbol, you put both cards in the discard pile and you get a scratch. You get enough scratches and you end up with a wound. The big wound comes from just one encounter. Opportunity. There are 5 different opportunity episodes. All opportunities have one thing in common. You give up cards or fame tokens, including Fame Alliance tokens, in exchange for something else. In the first, King Hygelac's court, you can discard 2 cards to get 2 different cards. Basically, if you don't like your hand, you can change it right at the beginning of the game. In the Great Rewards, you can exchange 2 fighting cards, axes, in exchange for 3 treasure, which would be a great deal in the basic game. It probably is still a pretty good deal. In Peace Returns, you can discard 1 symbol of each of the 5 types to win a fame token. Many Friendships, you can take 1 face-down alliance token in exchange for 2 friendship cards, or 1 friendship card with 2 symbols. Yeah. In Break Ranks, just before the game ends, you may return any 2 fame tokens or fame alliance tokens in order to discard 1 large wound tile or all your scratches. And I believe you can discard this wound tile because of that. I think in all cases, you can use a Beowulf as one of the symbols. Let me see. Yeah, you add any, no, that's the risk. You know, it doesn't say Beowulf cards, so I don't think you can use them for that. Let's see. Yeah. I know that they act as wild cards in a lot of cases. I don't think they do in this case. All right, selection. In these episodes, you choose one of 5 options. Take a treasure token of value 2, take a face-down alliance, take a fame token, draw 2 cards from the deck, or return all scratches. If a token of a particular value has been used up, that option is no longer available. So you can't take change or anything like that in this case. There is at least one case in the game where you're allowed to make change. And then there's these recovery spaces, which are played somewhat different from other minor episodes. The start player turns over twice as many cards from the deck as there are players and displays them. Beginning with the start player and going around clockwise, players select 1 card each and add it to their hand. After all players have picked 1 card, the start player starts a second round and takes another card, followed by the next going around until each player has gotten 2 cards. Other than like a Beowulf card, for the most part, the cards are all about, well, okay, no. So Beowulf cards are kind of cool because they can be used as wild cards in some cases. And the other cards, it may be a need to fill your hand out for upcoming events and whatnot, more than anything else. Okay. Major episodes. That's these guys. Now, some of them have the word risk on them. I'll talk about that in a moment. There are 2 types of major episodes. Some of them are played by all players at the same time, while others you take turns until only 1 player is left. The simultaneous play ones have a vertical arrow on them. The other ones have a indication that you take turns. They're both going to operate in a similar fashion. We'll talk about that in a moment. But when Beowulf reaches one of the simultaneous plays, he asks the players to do all they can to overcome this challenge. To do this, all players select a number of cards from their hand without showing them to other players. Once all players have selected the cards they intend to assist Beowulf, the cards are all revealed simultaneously. Up to this point, the players have held their cards hidden, although anyone who wants to can lay cards face down on the table that are just kind of random or whatever. In order to bluff, etc. The player who reveals the most matching symbols of the required types, so each of these is going to have multiple symbols on it, receives the status marker, that's these, with the number 1. The player with the second largest number of symbols gets the status marker number 2, etc. If more than one player has the same number of symbols, the start player or the player sitting nearest the start player in clockwise direction in order of play receives the status marker with the lower number, and so on. All the cards with matching symbols or Beowulf symbols are then placed face up on the discard pile. See, I think Beowulfs are always... because it doesn't say here... Yeah, we'll see. See, it says, who reveals the most matching symbols of the required types. It doesn't talk about the Beowulf symbol. And I think it must say somewhere that the Beowulfs are always count as wild cards. All cards have one or two symbols. The Beowulf cards, here it is. The Beowulf cards are jokers and have only one symbol. It can stand for any particular symbol. Yeah, okay, so even in the opportunity, you can expend Beowulf cards to count as some of them. I thought I remembered that. All right. The player who reveals the most matching symbols receives the status marker with the number 1. Yeah. All cards with matching symbols or Beowulf are placed face up on the discard pile. If any cards with non-matching symbols have been played as a bluff, the player who played them gets them back in their hand, although they've revealed some of their cards, which might be of some interest. Note that you can also play 0 matching symbols by selecting cards with no matching symbols at all. Some of the simultaneous major episodes only ask for 1 kind of symbol, others allow 2, and of course you can always use Beowulf cards. The significance of the status markers is described later. What you get for getting your position. All right. Then there's the curved arrow ones, which are clockwise play. And this is going to get funky. Beowulf asks the players to help him as best. Players try to last as long as possible at Beowulf's side and be the last one left standing. In a clockwise play, you can always play 2 kinds of symbols and Beowulf cards. The start player begins by laying down just 1 card with 1 or more of the required symbols. The next player must now play at least 1 card and either equal or exceed the total number of symbols displayed by the previous player. We're going to get into some problems with what you must and can do in this section. And I feel like the rules are just not very well written when it comes down to it. Okay. If he does not achieve this with his first card, he may play further cards. As soon as he has equaled or exceeded the number of symbols of the previous player, he may not play any more cards. Okay, now 3 basic rules. All players must play at least 1 card when it comes to their turn. The current player must at least equal the highest number of symbols displayed by any one player. Okay, well, that... I don't know. Let's keep going. As soon as the required number of symbols is equaled or exceeded, no more cards may be played. The player then announces his total. Cards you have played remain in front of you. If your turn comes around again, you add further cards to the ones already played. The total is always based on the total number of symbols on all the cards a player has played. If you cannot or do not want to equal the highest number of revealed symbols, remember, you must at least equal the highest number of symbols, okay? This is where it gets troublesome. If you cannot or do not want to equal the highest number of revealed symbols achieved by one player so far, you are out of the episode. You must place your revealed cards on the discard pile and take the status marker with the highest number available number. Play continues in turn until all players except 1 have been knocked out. The last remaining player receives the status marker with the number 1. Each player must always play at least 1 card. It can happen that the current player has already played a sufficient number of symbols because all following players only manage to equal his total. That player must still play 1 and only 1 card, and therefore increases the number of symbols. I have the feeling that this must play a card. First of all, that's in a questionable state. At least equal the highest number of symbols displayed by any one player. A, you may not be able to. And B, there seems to be a proviso that says you don't have to. Must play at least one card. I think it follows the same rule. I think that these rules apply if you want to stay in. No matter what, if you don't wish to stay in, you can pass. But it's not well described there. They give an example here, and if I recall the examples, I've read through them hoping they would clarify things. I don't believe they do. Okay, but now we come to the fact that some of these say risk on them. If you don't have the symbols you need in your hand, or if you don't want to play them, if you want to save them, you may take a risk each turn before playing cards from your hand. The procedure is the same as when taking a risk in a minor episode. Turn over 2 cards from the deck. Matching cards count as played, non-matching are discarded. If you reveal 2 matching cards, even though one would have been enough to equal the required total, they're both played. If you turn over 1 or 2 matching cards, but it isn't enough to equal the required total, you must continue to play cards from your hand until you have reached the required number of symbols. If you cannot or do not want to do this, you are knocked out of the episode. Again, this seems clearer than what was up here. I don't know. Do all of these have risk? No, they don't all. Okay. Oh, these are not clockwise. Are all the clockwises risk? Yeah, all the clockwise ones say risk on them, which to me means maybe if you don't have the cards to play here, you may take a risk, but you have to do one of those. But I don't know again. Okay. If you turn over 1 or 2, but it isn't enough, you must continue to play cards from your hand, or you can be knocked out. If you turn over 2 non-matching cards, you're knocked out of the episode, even if you have the cards in your hand, and you get a bonus scratch, which may mean that you just have to keep playing. Again, it's not well described, and when they get to the risk here, you know, they're talking about this, but she hasn't got these cards in her hand, so she is also knocked out of the episode and takes the status marker with the number 3. But there is another way to play. Take a risk. I mean, it's like, maybe you just have the choices all the time to just drop out of the event. Again, I think that's how I'm going to play it, but it's like the rules are just not clear enough here. Okay, the start player may take a risk right away if he wants to. If the start player has no matching cards and does not want to take a risk, he may also drop out of the game right away. Okay, again, seems pretty clear, but seems in opposition to the things that were stated previously, which is disturbing. Each time a player takes his turn, he can decide whether to take a risk or not. A player can also decide not to play even if he does have the right cards, in which case he takes the highest remaining status marker. Again, these things seem absolutely clear, but the musts make this not work. Maybe it's a translation issue. Maybe there's like a... maybe the word must doesn't mean must in some other language. I don't know. Okay, resolving major episodes. At the end of both kinds of major episode, all the players will have a status marker in front of them. The player with the status marker with the number 1 gets to select an icon space first. And he gets the appropriate tokens, tiles, or cards. Then play passes to the player with status marker 2, and so on. The player with the highest number on the status marker is left with no choice and has to take what's left. A symbol with 2 scrolls means you can pick up 2 face-down alliance tokens. Why that's a note and, I don't know, not an example or something, I don't know. The player with the highest number then removes all the status markers and places them next to the board and becomes the new start player and gets the red marker. If there's fewer than 5 players, you'll be using the red marker to indicate which status, I think statuses, rewards, whatever, are going to be available for the next thing. And then you move the advancing the Beowulf to the next episode. All right. And we have another example, which again, I really don't think the examples resolved any of my issues. Icons are the tokens, tiles, and cards that the players can receive in different episodes. In rare situations, it can happen that all the fame tokens of value 2 have been used up by the time you reach the dragon battle or later episodes. If this happens, change is allowed. This is the only exception to the no change rule. When you earn a special card, you pick it up from this set up there and put it in your hand. These can be played the same way as activity cards. If they have activity text, for example, Beowulf's Daring. When taking a risk, reveal 5 cards instead of 2. Where am I? Special cards with activity can only be played if the text allows it. Special cards are taken out of the game as soon as they've been played, and they will not be placed back in the discard pile. They would be very, very powerful if they got to recycle. If a player earns additional activity cards, he draws the appropriate number from the deck. When the last card has been drawn, you shuffle the deck and use it as a new deck. If you get a scratch, you get a small wound and place it in front of you. These are wounds, these are scratches, but these are also small wounds as well for some reason. Again, you really feel like, you know, this is a well-produced game with a fair amount of money put into the components, not a lot of rules. You feel like somebody should have, like, done a copy editing job or something. And here I am looking for credits, and I see none. You know, even with somebody as well regarded as a designer, etc., as Knizia, with such a simple game, it doesn't necessarily work without, like, it's just so easy for mistakes to creep in. And certainly, you know, if you're going to publish multiple language games, versions of the game, each one should be appropriately vetted. Anyway, he picks up a small wound tile and places it in front of him. If he receives a wound, he picks up a large wound tile with 1 wound and places it in front. The player then draws 2 cards from the deck. If a player receives a 3rd scratch, okay, so whenever you get, yeah, so this is weird, right? If you pick up a small wound, you place it in front of you, period. If he receives a wound, he picks up a large wound tile and places it face up in front of him, period. The player then draws 2 cards from the deck. Okay, I guess there's just a bonus to getting hurt. If a player receives a 3rd scratch, he returns all 3 small wound tiles and takes a large wound tile. In this case, he doesn't get any extra cards. He's gotten 6 already. Although, I don't know, because he may only be getting 4. The exclusion may be, in this case, he doesn't pick up 2 cards even for that 3rd scratch. So he doesn't get them for the 3rd scratch and for the wound that comes from it. Again, that's how I would read it, but I don't trust these rules worth a damn anymore. The large wound tile with 2 wounds isn't used until you get to the dragon battle. Wounds cannot be converted back into scratches. If you're allowed to return 1 or 2 scratches, but currently only have a large wound, too bad. Just before the end of the game, there are 2 opportunities for healing wounds. The crossed out wound tile allows you to return 1 of your wound tiles, including the double wound tile, or any number of scratches. You won't have more than 2. In the last episode, Death of Beowulf, you can use 1 icon either to pick up a fame token of value 5 or discard a large wound tile. And where we see that. That's here. So 1 player can do that, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't do that. So let's just see what that says. In the last episode, you can use 1 icon. Yeah, I think only 1 person can use that special bonus up here. It's this or this, and, you know, it's obviously the best thing, so the first choice is going to get that. Okay. What about the special cards? All right, let's go through them since I'm doing a whole video on the rules here. King Hrothgar's Blessing. These are the ones with special text. Well, let's look here. Okay, the all-iron shield is only used in the advanced game where you're using it. Cards with, and it is just a card with lots of fighting on it. Cards with symbols are handled and played exactly as activity cards. Hides of Land is the only Beowulf card containing more than one type of symbol. Oh, more than one Beowulf symbol, sorry. Okay. And that's a lot of Beowulf you get there. When playing, the Beowulf symbols can even stand for different symbols. It can be helpful, especially in the minor episode Peace Returns. The 5 text cards described below in more detail. Instead of discarding one of your cards shown as symbols for King Hrothgar, you retrieve the card into your hand. You can use this card if you have played an activity card or a special card with symbols. You know what? We're going to hit these as we run into them as options instead of reading through them. Fuck it. It's no fun. Okay. In the advanced game, this is where gold-colored treasure episodes come into their own. That's these. The rules are the same as the introductory game. So I think you just skip these treasure episodes otherwise. Which I find more advanced and confusing than like having this extra little bit. Okay. The rules are the same as the introductory game. Treasure tokens no longer count as points at the end of the game. They have a new function that allows them to use them to your advantage. The first 5 treasure episodes are similar to clockwise major episodes. However, this time you can only bid with treasures and only one player can win the icon of the treasure episode. When the Beowulf figure is moved to a treasure episode, the star player begins by revealing one of his square or round treasure tokens and announcing its value. The next player now reveals his treasure tokens until the total at least equals the previous total. Like in clockwise major episodes, you must reveal one new tile each new turn, and you cannot reveal any more treasures than until you. And you cannot reveal any more treasures once you have equaled or exceeded the previous total. As soon as you've done that, the turn passes to the next player. If you cannot or do not want to, again, must and, but if you don't want to, equal the required total, you turn all your treasure tokens face down again and put them back in your collected tokens. This means that when you're knocked out, you don't lose your bid, which is a big deal. Play continues clockwise until only one player remains. That player returns all his revealed tokens face up next to the board and receives the appropriate rewards depicting the episode's icon. All other players neither lose nor gain anything. Now, if we recall correctly, it's the fame tokens. Okay, I don't know. I thought maybe the treasure tokens work only in the advanced game and they might get skewed otherwise, but no. Because people will be turning them back in. Alliance tokens also might have treasure values on them, and they can be used for this. In the final treasure episode, Recover Treasures, up here, all players reveal their total treasure tokens and any alliance tokens displaying treasures. As usual, the player with the most receives the status marker with 1, etc. And then they can take fame for how much treasure that they've collected up. The star player does not change at the end of treasure episodes. Because the players have no treasure tokens left in their hand by the end of the game, only the values of fame tokens are counted towards victory in the advanced game. A variant, and I think we'll play with this too. Beowulf and his men lived hard in cruel times. Accordingly, players can agree to make the rules a little bit harder. Yeah! Any player with 3 or more wounds at the end of the game, after the death of Beowulf episode, is deemed to have fallen in battle and scores 0 points. However, this is only determined at the end of the game, since there are opportunities to heal wounds. So, it makes it all the more important not to collect up a bunch of wounds. Normally, we didn't hit the game end here. When you reach Death of Beowulf, you're nearing the end of the game. In this episode, players returned all the cards in their hand. The player with the most symbols overall gets the status marker with the number 1. The player with the second highest number gets 2. Once final fame points have been awarded, all the players reveal their fame, treasure, and alliance tokens and add up their values. Any misfortune tokens are deducted from the total. Players who have no wounds get a bonus of 5 points. Players with 3 or more wounds would lose 5 points for each wound. Again, I don't know how much the death really matters, right? If you're looking at if you're looking at 3 wound tokens, you're looking at minus 15 points right there compared to somebody who has 2 wound tokens and doesn't get any penalty. If you have 4 wounds, for example, you lose 20 points. Players with 1 or 2 wounds have nothing added and nothing deducted. Scratches are ignored. Whoever has the highest total would become the successor. So there it is, fairly briefly. I don't think I'll be playing right away, but I may be playing tonight. And I don't expect it to take too long, but we'll see. We'll see what it plays out like. All right.